Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So yesterday I went to Aldi to see if they had any plant stuff, and I was able to find this really cool plant stand. It's from a company called Bel Air. It's just a wooden plant stand made out of natural wood. It looks like there's some assembly required with this, but behind me over here I have a very small plant stand for a lot of my plants against this window, and I've been looking for something that has some tiers to replace it. So this has 3 different shelves on it. Some of the shelves don't have a lot of room underneath, so I might need to switch out some of the plants that I have here. But I wanted to show you guys what the assembly is like for this, the construction, just kind of my thoughts on it, and how it's going to fit in this space. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, quick correction. This actually is Bellavi. I just read it wrong because it's in cursive. Oh, I didn't mention too that this is, it was $40 for this, which I thought was a really awesome price. So here's the instructions. It looks like all we need is a screwdriver, so this should be pretty easy assembly. So thankfully all this is put together. It looks like we have the smallest shelf, middle, large shelf, and then there's kind of like this A-frame section. So it looks like we're just going to be screwing these on. Okay, so the way that you put this together is you want to slide these shelves in. However, I did notice that the way that this is cut, see how there's the first piece of wood here and then the second piece of wood here? So when it's angled like this is the first and the third, so bottom and the top. You're going to put this piece on the outside of the wood, but the second one is cut the other way, so you want to put this second piece of wood on the inside here. So first one goes in, and then you can just open up the A-frame to match with the bottom. This piece goes in, but goes on the inside. So that's secured. And then this piece goes in on the outside. Now I just have to screw them in. So looking at the inside of the A-frame, you can see that there's 2 holes here. So with the screws provided, you can just screw them right in to hold this piece together with this piece of the shelf. So the screws were pretty easy to put in since the holes were already pre-drilled for me, and you could certainly use a drill instead of a screwdriver if you want to. But there was 12 screws in total, and for that middle shelf, I ended up screwing it in from the top down, and that made it a lot easier. Now, once I did put it together, it actually was rocking a little bit, which partially could have been my fault, but I just got one of those sticky cloth things you could put on the bottom of furniture. I did cut it so that way it didn't stick out on either side, and that seemed to pretty much fix the problem. At this point, it was pretty much just getting all of my other plants out of the way and then finding out what plants were actually going to fit on the shelf. Now, you can see that this shelf does fit really well in front of one side of a sliding glass door, so if you have a similar setup to me, this does fit there very well. It's just that the height in between the shelves is only about maybe a foot or so I really wasn't able to fit much stuff that was tall. I have some grow lights downstairs where these plants originally came from, but I do need to put my taller plants down there since they're not going to fit on these shelves. But they still work well for the small ones. Okay, so here is the final product, and these are all the plants that I put on. Okay, so after constructing this and putting plants on here, you can see there's a little bit of a different collection of plants that I have on these shelves compared to what was on the straight shelf before. And the biggest reason is because these shelves don't have a lot of space in between them, so you can't put a lot of larger plants on them. This also is made out of poplar wood, so it has a little bit of a green look to it. You could certainly stain this if you want to. I didn't stain it today, but I might stain it in the future, maybe do like a black color or brown or something like that. But you don't want to put anything too heavy on here because it is kind of like craft wood. It's kind of cheap wood, so I wouldn't put anything too crazy. But for smaller plants, things like succulents or stuff that is slow growing, this is really great for that. But I did have to relocate a lot of my larger plants. So if you do have a lot of larger plants, then I wouldn't necessarily recommend this. One thought I did have is you could potentially take out this second shelf and then just have your larger plants on the bottom, but that might end up taking out a little bit of the structure of it. So you just want to be careful with that. And I'm just going to leave it how it is set up for today. The other thing too, if you do have larger plants, there's not a lot of space from the end of one shelf to the end of the next shelf. So I have this cactus on my right over here, which I actually was able to fit, and it does stand up from that third shelf. However, I only was able to do that because it's such a thin plant at the bottom. Most plants, you're not really going to be able to do that. The other thing too was when we were constructing this, it was a little bit shaky, and part of that could have been my fault for just not pushing it out all the way when I was screwing in the shelves, but we did have to fix it by just putting like a little piece of cloth underneath, those little sticky things, and that seems to work pretty well, but again, it's just a kind of a cheap product, so stuff like that is to be expected. If you have any other questions or comments about this product, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. But besides that, I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you in the next one.